Hi guys, back in the studio today. So what I did yesterday was I basically put this huge sheet. It's about like 10 feet or 10. It's 10. 10 feet by about 4 feet on the back of the studio wall, and I started to block it in yesterday. It's just a front view. I'm planning on doing like a series of all the views on this piece of paper. I'm not sure if I want to do them all really big or do like couple small ones, couple big ones, and just try to fill this whole thing up with skulls. Like that would be cool. But I figure I could just kind of talk you through some things and maybe teach a bit while doing it. And then I think we're also going to be doing maybe some smaller ones on a separate piece of paper at some point. And I guess, why is the skull, I guess, so important to me, and why do I think it's important in general? Well, if you're ever going to do a portrait, which I feel like a lot of people would want to do a portrait, so I think the skull is important to understand, because the head is nothing but, well, it's not nothing, but it has muscle, but the main component of the head is the skull. If you feel around your face, your cheekbones, your right here, it's you kind of hear the hardness of it, and it's pretty, it's gotta be, a lot of bone, because if you think about it, you gotta protect this. There's a lot of, like, it's almost like a shell to protect the brain. And then that's kind of why we have this big, we're these intelligent beings, or we think we are humans, So we have this big case that's called the, this whole part from right here is called the cranium. And then you have the facial mask that hangs down off of that. So if this part was taken out, then you just have the cranium. Well, on the jaw, it would take the jaw too. Now right here, what I'm drawing, as we talked about this before in the other lessons, is the superciliary crest, my favorite. And it's really cool from the front view, because you really get to see the just a cool, this eagle-like shape here, where it's sort of turns into somewhat of an eagle type of symbol here, and then it goes down, and then what happens actually is you can sort of follow a rhythm line that kind of cuts through the cheekbone. So it's like an imaginary, like, a rhythm line or gestural line. And what can happen if you do that is you get this kind of almost, it almost, then that eagle shape kind of turns into a, you could think of it as like a fish, and that's its tail, or a whale, and it's like the head of the fish is going, or we could just call it a fish, I guess. So the head of the fish is going down, and then that's the tail that's sprouting out. So it kind of just really, it allows you to find like a huge rhythm, and that's what you kind of want to go after, because if you can look for the biggest rhythms first, then you're going to be way more accurate, because it's harder to gauge small distances and everything. But if you can find those bigger rhythms, then you don't have to worry about all those little thing, like the little things will fall into place. Another thing is, like, if you are gonna do something this big, what I'm suggesting is standing back a lot, because this thing is like probably 5 times the size of a normal skull. So you're gonna run into like proportion problems a lot more than you would with like doing it life size. You can kind of, that it's just, it's going to be the size of the actual subject matter. But this, you have to like think, oh, everything's 5 times bigger, so that eye socket is, almost, part of the. It's way bigger than a regular life-size eye socket. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then maybe we'll do some like smaller than life size, so we can sort of train the eye to see different proportion of the subject matter. And when you draw smaller, it actually kind of, in a way, helps you to get the bigger view of things, because when you draw something smaller, it looks like it's kind of far away. It's like this perspective illusion that you can do on paper. If you, this skull right now, it's like, it feels like it's like, as my face just came close to the camera, it seemed larger. But as I step away, it's smaller, right? But then when I step forward, it's bigger. So that's what's happening here. But it's much easier for a larger drawing to be able to see the whole from a distance. I call it kind of like the helicopter view. You're looking sort of down on your drawing, and you're seeing everything at once. You're seeing it more as a whole. So right now I'm driving this cheekbone, driving that through, and I'm kind of following following this rhythm here. It's like a diagonal rhythm. I kind of think of this as sort of a, goes like this. It's almost like a W shape. So like these right here on the end would be that zygomatic starting to shoot up and on and wrap around the side, and then this sort of upside, this point right here going like that, and that is the two zygomatics, because that's what happens. They don't just go like this. They don't go horizontal, like perfectly like this. They go like that, and they grab along and protect the eyeball. So it's it's a lot about function. And if you kind of understand why something is kind of constructed like that, like if it were like a piece of architecture, then you can start to really kind of memorize like the skull a lot even better, because you're starting to use conceptual thinking, and that can get in the way too. But in the long run, it'll eventually catch up with your observational stuff, and you'll be able to pick stuff out that you just really can't see in reality, but it's going to make the drawing better. So I just trying to get this eye socket to the same size as that one. Really just trying to, work out the proportions. I have to keep myself disciplined to stand back, of course, because I'm no different than you guys or anybody else. Everybody forgets to stand back because we're just so drawn to the detail. It's just it's more of I guess a survival thing. We look for all these finite things to kind of keep ourselves safe. Like if anything's off, or so our mind is just so, it's more, so complex in that way. So I'm just, and right now the skeleton is actually over there. See, so I'm just kind of going off my memory, but if I need to, I'm like, oh, I have a little cheat sheet right there, so that's nice. But I'm mainly doing it from my memory, which is kind of what I'm trying to train you guys to do, because it's a really rewarding thing when you don't have to rely solely on the subject matter. You can change it, and you can even draw stuff that's not there and make it still look good. But obviously, you need to learn the rules first before you can. I don't like to say break the rules, because I feel like there's still got to be but I say more so bend the rules. I like that saying a lot better, because breaking the rules, it just sounds like you're like kind of going out and just like, no, I'm not following anything. It's like you gotta follow some kind of a set of rules and systems. I don't know. I mean, that's my thought, but that's how I think about that. So I like to say bend the rules. But art is really more than just the technique. It's really a mindset and how you're thinking about things, how you're putting them into terms to sync them in your mind, to memorize, and to be able to do it without the reference. So it's not easy, but after you gain some ground on it, it does become a lot easier. And if you don't have a skull, I would definitely get one. There's several places to get them. I got mine from Bone Clones, but I also have several others from, I think there's the Scientific 3B or something it's called. That one's pretty good, and that's pretty generally used around. Like it's in a lot of doctors' like there's like skeletons in the doctor's office. So I think it's the site's like Scientific 3B. It's like 3B skull or something, I think. I'll have to take a picture. Mine is all beat up and missing teeth, and that's what happens when you use it a lot. Wind up breaking off certain things. Well, I mean, they're pretty strong, so I took a wrong drop, but if you're really, if you have the money and you really are invested in these skulls, then I suggest getting one from bone clones, and that's a company out in California. They basically they just cast them off of a real bone, but you know it's like just like a lot of the other skulls, but they're just more the texture. It's not like plastic. It's like I think they do it in resin, but it looks like the way they kind of put like a faux finish, I guess you could say. Like it looks like bone, which is really cool. So, I mean, and you're just gonna, if you're really, you know, a lover of skulls like me, you'll have several, you know, but you ain't need really one. But it's just cool things to have around, cool conversation pieces. But if you do kind of look around, you're just looking at different skulls, like try to really look for one that's unique and has like a lot of bold. You don't want something that's too smoothed out. You want something that's kind of like a bit gritty, a bit gnarly in a way. Like I remember reading Robert Beverly Hale's one of his figure drawing books. He has several books there. Robert Beverly Hale, and he did he would do a lot of drawings like that, similar to this, where it'd be on like well, he used like a chalkboard, or no, I think he used like paper. He probably used both, but he used like newsprint paper. This is a little bit better than newspaper, but he would do these huge drawings, and he'd have this big stick, which is actually what I should be. I think I'm gonna actually get like a wooden dowel at one point and like tape this thing and kind of have that, because that kind of automatically, you don't even have to step back because you're already back. If you had this long, actually I probably do have something like that already I could use, but I'm just not gonna do it right now. But in the future I might actually somehow it'd be really cool if I could get some kind of metal rivet or something that I could like sit this pencil in, and then basically have the pencil on the end and be able to draw, and then I can also explain better that way too. So that might be something to look into. Well, yeah, so that's gonna be something in the future, hopefully. So I'm just kind of looking over my skull, thinking how I'm doing so far in terms of just doing it kind of from memory. So I'm just walking over now, getting a little closer to this skeleton over here. I'm kind of trying to think in terms of these like pivot points in the eye socket, kind of almost breaking it down line for line. So it's like how many lines kind of make this eye socket up, and then drawing through, seeing where that lines up. So it's kind of lines up right where that superciliary crest kind of starts at the like it kind of ends at the nasal. Just drawing a straight line through there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with I think this side, but this side's starting to lose it for me in terms of the eye socket. So I'm gonna work on that one a little bit more. I think this just needs to come in a bit. So chisel that out a bit. And then these parts sort of a slanted. It's not a complete vertical. It's sort of tapering this way, or falling that way. Yeah, so it seems like this angle can come down a little bit more. Come slant down a little bit steeper on a vent angle. As you can see, it's just not a big fan of these. I don't know why this one kneaded eraser I'm working with right now is just not. I ordered it from like a different company. Well, it's just a different brand. I order everything off Dick Blick, but it's a different kind of brand. Forget what it's even called, but it's like not as doesn't stick together like TPs. They kind of like just, I don't know, not as good as like Prismacolors has good ones. And yeah, they're pretty much usually all the same, but I don't know why this just gave me a little bit of a problem. I mean, I still can use it, but it's still sort of a pain. Alright, I was just checking. I think the video thought it wasn't recording for a second, but it was. So that's fine. Here's the Temporalis here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use this. This is like a pencil eraser thing. I think I shared this before, but I shared a different one. This is I think it's called like Perfection 1056 Faber-Castell, made in Germany. It's pretty nice. I like it. The only thing is it leaves a little bit of residue, crumbs behind, but yeah, it's pretty cool because you can it doesn't take everything off right away, so you can kind of leave a little bit and take off a little bit without taking everything out, which is good. Sort of like kneaded eraser. Yeah, I'm just trying to really kind of lock in a lot of these, like, you could even take, you really want to measure stuff out, sort of, because we know that it's, it's a front view, so it's a little bit easier to measure. You don't want to get tied down by measuring, but if you're just kind of like, can't get it quite right, it's not a bad idea to check it. So I want to check the eye socket. This part might have to come a little bit. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, so I think the eye sockets are generally good. But, well, maybe this part we can work. and that kind of leads us to the temporal ridge. This whole eye socket, wing of the eye socket, I like to call it. These are like these two wings that shoot out like this, and you follow that up, and then it like has this real nice sweep outwards. And well, it's not going like out, like it's actually wrapping around to the other, but for just a flow line. And then you can kind of take these two lines, and they should kind of line up fairly even. So then you got that. Obviously, this part of the skull needs some work. That one's a little bit more cleaned up. This one's a little. That's the thing with these front views. You would think they would be pretty easy because you could just kind of mirror whatever's going on the one side, and then. But you really have to make sure you're doing it. You're like constantly balanced instead of just drawing one whole part and then trying to flip it. It's just like it's not gonna be. It's better to kind of do a little bit here, do a little bit there. So I like to kind of start once I start locking certain things in. I put these little almost like acupuncture points in. So there's like these little like pins almost around the skull. Start laying them in so I can start drawing these horizontal lines and diagonal, and so like they're just these points that you can really. It's almost like a compass or like these anchor points where you can kind of now you know like okay, these points are gonna stay pretty much there. They're not gonna move unless otherwise happens. But they're generally when you feel they're correct, you start kind of notching in these little marks. Like I might even put a mark here. Mark there, just like a general quick mark like that will help you start to gauge your drawing area. Putting a placement for trying to hone in on this. Because I know the nasal bone should be pretty much a line up with the cheekbones. So the cheekbones may have to either they have to come up or the nasal bone might have to come down. So the nasal bone might be down here more. So, yeah, so the next thing, if we have time, well, it's about 30 minutes, but so I guess we'll wait for the next session. I'll talk about the frontal, it's called the frontal eminence. It's basically frontal eminence is kind of, it goes from like here to here and about like there. So I could talk about that, and then there's this part right in here that kind of breaks down into, there's like a plane here, and then there's this sort of spherical part, and then it's kind of like you have this, you could think of this as like a sun, and then you have the eagle kind of flying out. So there's you gotta make it fun, you gotta make it interesting. Because that's how you remember things, it's like a funny movie or even like a sad movie or something, you're gonna remember those moments that like kind of hit you psychologically, that made you laugh, made you cry. You know what I mean? Anything kind of connected to your emotional core is gonna make you kind of remember it more. So just think about that. And I'm probably gonna shoot another video today, and then that's gonna be probably it for today. But yeah, definitely subscribe, like, comment, you know, it's all free, no cost, just doing it out of, you know, I just want to teach. I want to learn how I could be a better teacher, what I'm doing right, what I could do better, you know. So I'll be here drawing, and you guys can just keep watching. All right, thanks guys.